Alright, I'm just going to go over my pedal board. So this is just a basic overview of how I built my pedal board, what I used, the type of Velcro, soldering, etc. So let's just have a look. So this particular pedal board is a number of pieces of wood that I went and bought from a local hardware store. So you'll see, if we look down the bottom, so I've just essentially got 4 long pieces of wood. Back one and the front one I just cut down to the dimensions that I wanted it, so that it has a little bit of a slant on it. And on the side, you'll see that it slants over. Alright, so all I did there is I just cut the wood at an angle. So I actually got them to do it at the hardware store, got them to cut it at an angle so that I could angle the board so that it's easier to push down on my pedals. After that, once I assembled the board, so essentially I've got one big piece of wood at the top here onto these 4 pieces of wood, right, back on the front, placed it on the top, and I used liquid nails, which is essentially like a really hard type of glue for wood, and then I screwed it all down as well. Alright, I also put 2 handles on either side, as you can see here, so that I could pick the board up when I need to. Alright, now the other thing that I did is, you'll see that on certain parts of my board, I'm not sure if that's popping up, is I've drilled holes. Alright, not sure if you can see that. So I actually drilled holes so that I can pass all my cables, so there's one there for example, so that I can pass all my cables and my power, etc. underneath my board to make the overall board look a bit neater. Okay, and then you'll see on the side of my board, so I'll just lift it up here so we can see it. I've got my outputs and my inputs, and then a power as well. So I'm actually running this board in stereo. So I've got a 1 input into the board, and then dual outputs, which are, I set the stereo up through my delays into 2 separate amps. Okay, so that's essentially what I did. Is I just went and measured the dimensions of the pedal board that I wanted, and I cut it down to size, glued it, and then screwed it together at certain points for stability. Okay, so if we look on the bottom of the board, just give me a second. So you'll see on the bottom what I've actually done there. So they're the holes that are coming through on the either side, and the cabling. So the cabling does look a little bit messy on the bottom side, but on certain parts I have Velcroed it down to try to keep it a little bit neater. Okay, and then, excuse me, and then on these parts, so they're the actual plugs. So I still haven't done it properly, but what I plan to do is actually glue these down. So you'll see that the plugs, these are the Neutrik plugs that I've used. Right, I actually soldered the cables down and did it that way as well. Okay, so if we look on the top of the board again, so the other thing that I've done is, once I assembled my entire board, I drilled the holes on the side here for the plugs, drilled the holes on the top. Well, before that, what I actually did is I laid down all the pedals on the board to sort of see where they were, and I drilled holes on the most optimal locations. Keeping in mind that my pedal order may change, I generally swap around pedals, so if with other pedals that I've got, I'll come and I'll swap them around. So I've sort of made note of that, and I've drilled the holes in places where I think will be the best. The other thing that I did is at the hardware store, I went and purchased a bunch of Velcro. Okay, and I've stuck the soft side of the Velcro down on the board. Okay, and on the bottom of each pedal I've got the other end, so the spikier part of the Velcro. Now I went and actually purchased a really strong Velcro, the strongest one that I could find, and it hasn't failed me. So I mean, I could turn the board upside down and none of the pedals would actually fall out. Alright, so that's essentially my overview. Unfortunately I can't show you how I constructed it, but it was, as I said, big piece on the top, side pieces here, the side pieces on this side and on the right side cut at an angle so that I could angle the board. Again, if you don't, if you can't cut at an angle, that's fine. You don't have to. Just keep it perfectly straight and you should be fine. Big piece onto the 4 pieces there, glued the pieces together, drilled them. I put handles to make it easier for me. Again, you don't need to put handles. But that's essentially it for my pedal board.